Hey everybody, I'm Derek Mazzoni. This is Sama, Seattle Circuit Music and Art. Thank you for being here. I have a special show today. We're going to be speaking to three Iranian women who are all composers, and my friend Naeim Rahmani, who's a guitarist and educator, and our sister city, Bellevue. And he's got a show coming up he's going to be talking about, and we're going to be learning about classical, neoclassical music. We're going to be learning about Iran. We're going to be learning about the immigrant experience. And we're going to be countering, well, I won't say counter. We're going to be questioning a narrative that we're getting about Iran and about music and about women, the role of women, and what can music do and what can art do to get people out of their heads and into their hearts. And as always with us, celebrate diversity and champion our shared humanity, wherever that may be, people, wherever that may be. All right, so here we are. Naeim and Parisa and Anahita and Farziah. Farziah. I don't know why I'm being dyslexic with that. That's really strange. Farziah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
We're just chatting here. I mean, obviously, I'm old enough to realize that this is freaking magic, that we're all over the place talking to each other, and it looks this good. Let's never forget that. So let's get started. Naeim, you brought us together. Tell me about yourself and tell me about the project that you're working on right now.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Iran, Isfahan, and I came as a refugee to the country in 2003. So I have been living in the States for quite a while now. So I'm based in Seattle right now. My music education was outside of Iran. You know, I started to play, the first lesson that I had in guitar was in 2006. It was something that I always wanted to do, music, but of course the opportunity wasn't there for me back home. So, and it was something that I really wanted to do as a kid, to become a musician. It was just the craziest thing. I teach now, and I just realized how 1 in 1,000, they really know what they want to do. But I sort of know what I want to do. So anyway, so the opportunity that I had here was tremendous. So I started, just pursuing it professionally. So in 2006, I started playing guitar, and then just blah blah, just moved on, went to a school, and sort of trained as a classical guitarist. And now I'm, actively playing, and I love collaborating, and that's why I started this project, Seattle-Isfahan Project, for several reasons. One was because I did not get an education in Iran, my music education. I sort of have felt this loss of sort of connecting with the musicians back home because I wasn't really doing it there. So it all started in the States. So I wanted to do something that I feel like I'm connected to that body of all these Iranian artists, just not musicians, but just in general, I love arts. And then I said, best way for me to just create this thing. And it was during the time that the Seattle, bunch of very good folks here in Seattle, they were trying to establish a sister city with Isfahan. When that came up, so I went and I met with them. And I was just brainstorming, honestly, about some ideas. And then I came up with this idea that I'm going to just start this project and then try to find some musicians, artists that I'm just finding, getting to know, and collaborate. And sort of the objective was, it really was to develop some new contemporary classical works that incorporate the wealth of music, art, literature that exists in the Iranian culture. And then also introducing that to the public, like for example, the show that we're going to have, introducing the Seattleites here, the people here with this music that is written by the Iranian composers, living composers, and then I'm also interested in the contemporary Iranian culture and society. When we think about the Iranian, they think, well, we preserve the traditional music very well. We have amazing musicians that they do that already. But this notion of the Iranians, I wanted to just be that more relevant to what is the country is actually going through, more relevant to this, the musicians and the artists that are fleeing the country or displaced, but that displaced voices, it's sort of the influences from their educations that they're getting from the Western countries and the roots, how it's sort of coming together, and they have these different voices in them, but the roots are really there. And then when I hear the music from, like, for example, the Iranians, there's something that it connects with me immediately, because there are some poetic aspect of it, I think, that is there, that it just really hits me immediately. You know, there's some fundamental of it. Even the influences that we all have experienced in different places and education that we get, that influences what we do. But there is that core of it, it's there. And then, you know, so I started just following some composers, you know, and I follow them, you know, honestly. I listen to their music,
And here they are.
and here they are. And this is how I actually found Anahita, Farziah, and Parisa. Sorry, guys. Parisa I collaborated with in my first project, The Wheel, Charkh Falak. So, and she's very dear to me, so we have collaborated together. So, and then I asked her again if she wants to write something for the ensemble, and she agreed. And then, of course, you know, I listened to Farzia's music, and then Anahita's, and then I just started chatting with them. You know, honestly, this is how I connected with them. We have not met, like in person. It's all virtual. It's all through text. And then, you know, so that's an aspect of the Iranianness of it. But then, you know, for this specific show, you know, I'm very interested in what is happening, you know, in my hometown, in the country. And the water crisis, you know, just speaking, I'm not a politician, I'm not a scientist. All the things that I do, it has the artistic vision. That's how I can see things, you know. But I wanted to do something with it. You know, I wanted to bring something that I feel like my voice is in there, because I feel like I need to do something, you know.
Okay. Anahita Abbasi, tell me all about yourself.
So I was born in Shiraz, Iran. I studied.
Magical city.
Yes, it is. It's a city of botanic gardens and orange blossom and all the poets and Persepolis and everything. So, I started studying music, learning music when I was 8 years old. And pretty soon I always thought that I want to be a composer. I enjoyed creating music, even for school at time. And 2005, I moved to Austria when I was 19 years old. To Graz University, I did music theory and then composition there. I stayed in Europe. Like my education that time took almost 10 years. And the fact was, within studying, I felt like I need to know more. I need to know why I'm doing this. And there are 100 millions of amazing composers everywhere. And I started to travel around and go to specific composers and mentors and musicians that I was interested in and worked with them. And this has shaped me, I think, started to like shape me to the person and composer that I am today, because of all the people I've interacted with and all the encounters and collaborations that we've had. I'm a person, I need the inspiration from everywhere, the world around me, but also from the people I'm working with. I've never been interested in just writing a piece for one instrument. I'm interested to write a piece for that instrument, but for the specific performer who is performing that instrument, because that person brings everything with him or her there to the work that we're going to create together. And in Austria, I founded with my colleagues in Graz a contemporary ensemble, Schallfeld ensemble. We've been active and with growing, presenting other composers. We wanted to sort of like bring the music of other composers to Austria, and also sort of like have this platform for all the young composers from different countries, that they could also be presented in great festivals and concert halls. And it's been going really well. 2014, I moved to the United States. I did my PhD at UC San Diego, University of California, San Diego. I need to defend now.
That's a culture shift.
It is
Austria
actually.
to San Diego.
It is. Well, Austria, I was always traveling the whole Europe. So, but from Europe in general to the United States and to San Diego was a huge shift, true. And I was not sure if this is the right decision that I'm making, because it was at the start of like my career to have like concerts in different countries and cities in Europe. But I can really say that was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life. As composers, we need to be around the people who can support us and who can have our backs and trust us, that we know there is something going on here. And I was extremely lucky that I had an advisor who has been at my side all the time and allowed me to find myself, provided me the space, basically, and the environment. And UC San Diego is a university that has is a contemporary music based. Every performer is a fantastic musician in anything what they do. So it was a very fruitful atmosphere.
Were you the only Iranian female composer in the university?
At that time when I entered, yes, there were like 2 undergrads, but yes, in the master PhD level, yes. But now now there is another one, also a pretty good composer.
Could you do this in Iran? Could you have had your career path if you stayed in Iran?
Well, the thing is, so my time when I started studying music in Shiraz, there were no conservatories for girls. There was only something in Tehran for boys, and we were going to private institutes to study music.
So the answer is no.
Well, the thing is, exactly, I left Iran because there was still a specific level that I could grow as an artist, as a composer, and mostly for a composer of contemporary music. If I was doing maybe Persian classical music, that would have been different. Then the environment would be Iran. The source of education, would be in Iran. But for me, no. I mean, these recent years, a lot of people like me and like Parisa and Farziah, who've been studying abroad and lived abroad and have their careers, they've been going back to Iran and teaching in universities and like doing master classes. So the world has changed a lot from 2005 that I left Iran till now that it's 2022. Oh my God, wow. But it is still, like I always say when someone asks me, I feel that actually, I don't feel that I cannot say I'm Iranian. I'm an Iranian-born composer, because I feel everything that I am has not only to do with Iran at all. It's with everywhere I've lived, every person I've met.
This comes up a lot with immigrant musicians, is that they're not trapped in amber. Their identity isn't
exactly.
They're tethered, and there's a cultural understanding, but you are of many things. You're not of the one thing.
Yeah.
But it's still a difficult, you couldn't do what you do. You had to leave in order to
Yes, of
fulfill
course. Of
and
course.
that's not to be, glossed over. That's
No,
a
no,
pretty
no.
serious,
Of course. I mean,
serious situation.
as a composer, regardless of gender, but maybe more even women, our country is not not recognizes us as like what we do is not something that they are fond of. So
Yeah,
regardless of gender, this is the same for also the male composers as well, but maybe for
yeah,
women
yeah.
even more complicated.
Absolutely. But this is the thing that I think is so important with, because you're not going to lecture people to death. You can't tell them you're wrong. But if you actually create a piece of work that opens up their heart, then suddenly the question comes in. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that artists can offer. I don't care what the music is. It could be like, the most abstract atonal piece that has ever existed, or something truly, truly traditional that everybody can resonate with. It doesn't matter. It's making that connection
It is about
where
making
the
connection. That's
narrative
true.
that narrative
Yes.
flips. So now you're in the
Yeah.
States, you're in Wyoming, in a
And
cabin.
yes, I'm staying now in Wyoming, the artist residency here at UCross Foundation. So in 2017, I mean, while I've been in the United States, I've been keeping going back and forth to the Europe and everywhere for my concerts. Always, aside from the 4 years of previous administration, which was a travel ban for people from Iran, that I was not able to
Yeah, yeah,
travel.
yeah, yeah. It's not like an easy thing. I'm just getting a visa and here I go. You never know what could happen.
And exactly. But anyway, so in 2017, with two other colleagues of mine, actually, again, like how we met Naeim through internet, we decided to create a concert for Iranian women composers. And then we thought, while we were gathering names, we found out that there are so many of us in many corners of the world. And then we decided to found an association. So this association is in the United States, based in California, the name is IFCA, Iranian Female Composers Association. So our goal has been to connect people, to create this place that everyone get to know the other person, and also that they can have the space and a place to show their work, show their art, present their art, and also for other organizers, people to get to know these fantastic artists. All three of us, my colleagues at IFCA, we are having a very different educational background, so we have different kind of connections to the world, to the artist and contemporary music world, which is a great thing because we're able to bring those with us in and connecting people and artists together and present them here, like, for example, what is happening here in other concerts. So, and we've been active
Awesome.
within the past,
Awesome.
yes, since 2017 till now. It's still going.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great. That's great. I'm glad that
Sure.
I'm glad you put this organization together, and I'm glad, in a sense, I'm glad you guys found each other.
Yes.
And they can build on that. Farziah,
Yes.
so tell me your story.
I'm born in Tehran, Iran, and I started the music with playing the piano, and it was the way to composition. I had a very great piano teacher who guided me to a group of composers founded by Ali Reza Mashayekhi in Tehran, a composer who studied in Europe and lived for a long time in the USA and came back to Iran with this with this vision to have 1,000 composers, because he believed that for having a very vivid scene in the music, it is important to have composers and to have new musical ideas and composing. And I'm now a composer because I once went to him to learn music theory and form and everything what is related to music. And there was a day, as I say, okay, now I'm composing. And
you remember the day?
The day,
where you said like, now I'm a composer.
I mean, it was a gradual process of getting there, because I didn't had it as an aim to be a composer, to become a composer. But through all the educations and all the discussions, I mean, we were there at his home many days a week. We ate together. We danced together, we played piano together, we listened to the music together. It was a very, very active scene of music. And it was a process getting there, getting to that point to say, okay, I'm really interested in composing and connecting to what Anahita.
Why? I want to ask all of you, but I'm curious, why composing? I want to ask, like, fun, because there's so many things you can do as an artist. There's so many things you can do as a human being, and you guys are just kind of like, just like, I'm a composer. It was like, and so, as in like, A, you had no choice, or B, why?
That's not
why music? Why composing?
I mean, for me, it was always important, music and also art and also literature. And
why?
I think it was very. I had a lot of things through the family, through my parents, and through the environment in which I was grown up. And I guess these are art, literature, music. These are all ways of communicating and ways of expression. So for me, I found a way through all these different mediums to music, and then in the music to expressing or thinking through music. I think for me it's really important to think through hearing, and to think through notes, through sounds, and to express the ideas, the concepts, and the word through thinking, through hearing.
What are you expressing? What are you trying to say?
It's not something which you can express through words of a specific language. It is something, because music, it's another medium which is not using this language which we are using every day, each moment. It's completely another kind of communicating, and it is through hearing, through sound. So that's the reason it is not. I cannot say what is that through a specific words.
So what is the? Let me twist this for a second, because one of the reasons that I love about music is that it doesn't matter. You don't have to know the language. You don't have to know the culture. You don't have to know anything about it. But sometimes something happens and an audience resonates and everybody connects. Like Naeim had this conversation. Suddenly, everybody loves each other for that moment. There's something that happens. So what is it that you, as a composer, are trying to get your audience to feel?
I wouldn't say I want to get my audience to that point that they feel something. I guess for me personally, there are two very important aspects in the music, in the composing. The one thing is to work with the musical material which I have. And it is exactly what a poet do, working with his words, working with her words, how she or he finds new words, how they use new words, how use the words in a new way. It is also my ability, my skill, how I use a specific sound in the context of a piece. I mean, sometimes the basic idea of a whole piece is just one sound, working with this sound. So one thing which is very important for me is always working technically with the materials which you have. There is also another aspect. It's difficult to say, but it comes at that moment, or I reach this at that moment when I start thinking and understanding a sound. What is the character of the sound? What a sound wants to tell me? What a time a sound needs to be there, to be perceptible for the audience. And at that moment, which I myself understand a sound and feel the sound and find intensity in a sound, that's the moment that I can use, or I can transpose this intensity of a sound in a piece, so that later in a concert, if the audience is hearing a piece, can have a connection with a piece and say, okay, I had something, without saying what was that.
Okay, so would you say, I'm trying to come up with words for it because that's my job. You're harmonizing with that sound, and then you take that harmony and you share that with your audience?
I wouldn't say just harmony, because it has a lot of different aspects, as I already mentioned. For example, time. For example, if I have a sound, for example, in the piece which I read for our project, I'm also working with some very, very dry sound. For example, plucking a very short string of the piano in the high register. So it's a very percussive sound. The string is not gonna vibrate for a long time, but it is going to wake much resonance of the whole body of the piano. So what I mean is, at that moment, I am understanding what is the character of the sound, and I am working with this character in the whole piece. So if my audience is sitting there, is gonna follow. It is important that I work very concretely and very clearly with my own sounds and with my concept, so that the audience can go through my piece during hearing.
Okay, that's good. That helps actually. Thank you.
Great.
What role does your identity play in your music? The fact that you're an immigrant, the fact that you're living in Germany right now, and the fact that you were born in Iran. We're going back to Anahita's role. It's hard to do this.
I guess I wouldn't say I'm an immigrant. I would say I'm a person with Iranian past, with a lot from the language, and also from how the people live and think and make jokes, for example, in Iran. But as I'm working also with music, and music is not restricted to language, to passion, to English, to Italian, to anything else. So I'm also just living in this world.
Okay. Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
It'd be fun to have dinner with you guys. Parisa, I hate doing this, like, okay, now you, now you,
No.
now you, but this is the way that we do it. Parisa, tell me about yourself. What's going on?
Yes. You want a short or a long story? I go with the short one.
It's digital. It's fine.
So I was born in Desful, Khuzestan, but I grew up in Shiraz. And I started with piano. I never thought I would be a composer. This was not the plan at all. And when I decided to move, actually immigrate to North America, it's because I belong to a religious minority that are banned from going to university in Iran. And that was the reason that my husband and I decided that we want to move and go somewhere else, pursue studies. And when I moved, I thought I can compete with the best pianists in the world. So why not I go and become an educator, do music education, go back home and help others. At least maybe I could help others to grow, to develop, to become who they wanted to be. But it wasn't a success when I started even applying for colleges because I didn't have anything much to actually show. But I started from below zero. I went to college. I did music in college in Montreal. And there was a theory teacher there that once told me, "You're good at theory. Why not try composition and see how it goes?" And I did. And at the beginning, it didn't seem it's promising. But I got to go to undergrad in composition in Chicago. And it was still, I wasn't sure. I was just trying it. And it was around Nowruz, Persian New Year. And I decided to compose a piece that kind of, because in Chicago, there wasn't a lot of it wasn't like Montreal or Canada that you can have like music, Persian stores, go and see, celebrate Nowruz with friends. So just to bring back and have something to replace as the celebration that I had back home, I decided to compose a piece based on that. And that was a success. Later on, I did it for a wind ensemble, and it was broadcast in Chicago radio, classical radio music. And I found a way that this is a way that I can communicate with people, with the new place that I live, and I have something to offer. And then it went from there. To me, it's always...
And where are you now?
I'm in Canada, live close to Toronto.
Okay, to Ontario.
Yeah, in Ontario. Yeah, so for me is always I found that you were asking questions like, what's the music? For me is that I always find I'm not good at talking or saying what I'm thinking about things, but music is a vehicle for me to do that. And it's always very important for me to tap on social issues. So any music that I write, I found there is a connection. I have to have something. And for me, my background, Iranian background, plays a very important role in my music. I wouldn't say it's inspired. It's either from the culture, the poems, what's going on in my country. There is always something connected, even if the subject is like sexual violence against women. But I find I choose a poem from an Iranian poet. So that's how I make the connection.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing. I don't deal with a lot of classical, neoclassical compositions in this particular program on my show, but the way Naeim described this to me, I was like, wait, this is a connection with nature, it's a connection with sacred, and a connection with something that, of a culture that has an interesting experience right now with this dominant culture, dominant Western culture. But there's a commonality, like, nobody cares when the world is on fire. Nobody cares. How did that play in as artist in what you're doing right now?
So for me, I chose a poem by Sohrab Saperi, Peygham Mahiha. I don't know if I want to translate it, a message from fish. And it's about a creek that is dry. And it's about this, it carries this hopelessness feeling that's going on. And interestingly, when I was just looking at it a few days ago, I found out that I wrote this piece during the pandemic, during the lockdown, and it seems you feel that in it. And it keeps the musical idea wants to go somewhere, but it never goes anywhere. It just stays there. It keeps repeating the same thing. You feel that hope, you want to move it forward, but it always stays where it is. You hear once the same note in one of the instruments. Others are trying to go somewhere, but it's so that the stillness, you see it, that was my idea when I was composing it.
Okay. Farziah?
I mean, thinking about these themes are somehow individual responsibility of each of us. And I think putting such a theme in a project means more and more paying social attention to an existing problem, to an existing theme. It doesn't necessarily mean that I can reflect it one to one from how do we say environment catastrophe to a music piece. I don't think that it's relevant in this case, but I myself believe in the individual responsibility of each of us and talking about it and focusing on it to gain more and more social attention.
I see it a lot as Farziah was saying that for me, I think it's part of as a responsibility of artists if they are in a position. I mean, we're living in this world around us, so highlighting what is happening and how we see the world, putting the focus attention on it. I think it's very important. It's not about what I tell people. This is what I think and this is the correct, or like this should be. It has nothing to do with that. It's just about putting it out there, but give the audience, give the people this chance to actually have this time to think, to perceive it, and be aware of it and know that this is happening. And hopefully, I always say that I think composer is where I will feel like I'm successful when after the concert, people still go and think about what have they heard. Yeah. It's not about that they loved it or they didn't like it or this. It's about we somehow like trigger any kind of like sensations with them, how they perceived the sounds, in that concert. So and then I feel like as a composer, I feel fulfilled that something I did something, I achieved something there. So for me, the piece has went through huge different directions because it was within the pandemic and then the Black Lives Matter in the US, and I was teaching and it was affecting me and my students a lot. There are many other like health issues, so many things. The piece really shaped in so many different ways and it transformed itself into many different beings, basically.
So it was living.
And
It was living.
yes, and sort of like, because also the situation of the pandemic, everything was very different, and also I went through some personal things, and so I had this conversation with Naeem that I came across that the thing is, my mom is from Isfahan, so I've been always in that city. I've seen the river full of water playing there when I was a child. And for me, I remember the day that I saw the videos that it's like drought, for me was heartbreaking. I remember the pain that I felt. So I've been following the news about this because it's sort of very much connected to me, and it's part of who, I know this very well. So I was talking to Naeem and telling that, to me, this is such a huge and important thing, and it's affecting me so much. And every time I want to somehow like address or bring something, I feel like the project is even bigger than me. The idea of the project, the goal is, and it's really hard for me to like know, like it. I always needed a very long time to like get into like how I want to like create what I want to create. But anyway, So at the end, the piece came into this shape that I recorded different kinds of sounds from the river, from the time that gathered from different recordings from like many years that the river was having the water, and the traditions that was happening around the river, the sounds of the city in the bazaars, how the river and water was bringing life to the city, and what has happened when now it was drought. And now here in February, again, they were opening it a little for a while and there was water, and how it changed completely the city and people and everyone. So it's a sort of like recorded based piece of materials. And then I asked some people, with the help of Naeem, gather like people memories about this river, about what the role of like water and river in their lives. So, and it is still shaping. So we'll see.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, thank you for your time. Naeem, we had some technical issues, but we'll work it out. Mark your calendar, everybody. It's June 11th, 7:30 in Seattle at the Good Shepherd Center, the chapel space. Anahita Abbasi, Farziah Fallah, Parisa Sabet, and 3 Seattle-based composers, Yigit Kolat, Jeff Bowen, and Huck Hodge, at a theme of drought, particularly a drought that is affecting the Zayan Derud, the river that gave birth to the city of Isfahan, Naeem's hometown. And it is a metaphor for the reality we're all confronting right now. And there'll be obviously a link to the show, and you can get tickets and support artists and support these great composers from the beautiful, beautiful country of Iran. Everybody, thank you for this. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Hey everybody, Derek Mazzoni here. Thank you for watching Sama, Seattle Circuit Music and Art. I hope you like what we're doing here. And if you do, please remember to like, subscribe, and follow, so we can bring you more of these amazing artists from all over the world. Thanks.